Alrighty, y'all. Well, let's get started. Hello and welcome everyone to Community Conversations, a monthly virtual panel series highlighting today's trans leaders and advocates. My name is Vanessa Cervantes, she, her pronouns. I am the Social Impact and Partnerships Manager here at Trans Lifeline, and I am your host for Community Conversations. For those who are new, welcome. You are amongst community here. And for those returning, thank you so much for joining us again and again and again, and hope to see you again and again. Before we begin, I want to ground us in a few quick community agreements to help us keep this place respectful and supportive. One, please be kind and respectful in the chat. Harmful or dismissive comments won't be tolerated. Some topics may feel heavy, so please, if y'all need to take a beat, step out, do what you need to do, and then come back when you are ready to join us. When sharing or asking questions, please be mindful that this is a shared affirming space. We'll have time for the audience to have Q&A later in the session towards the end, but feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll get to them towards the end. And then reminder, this space is for TGI Plus community members, wherever you are in your journey. And we also welcome allies and supportive loved ones who are here to listen and learn. And since March is Women's History Month, I want to take a moment to honor trans women who came before us, especially Black and Brown trans women who have been and continue to be at the forefront of change. We would not be here today without their strength, resilience, and dedication. Now, in honor of TDOV, Trans Day Visibility, today's conversation centers on what it means to exist, to be seen, and to be affirmed while navigating life in today's world. Visibility looks different for everyone. Now that even a few years ago or decades ago, some in our community live more privately or in stealth, while others live openly and proud. At times we are celebrated, and at other times we face harm simply for existing. So today we explore what it means to show up for ourselves, our loved ones, and our community within that reality. Alrighty. Now, I'd love to invite you all to help me welcome our panelists for today's session, leaders in our community who continue to uplift and shape the world around us in meaningful ways. Please give a warm welcome to Colombian actress and TV host Carolina Gutiérrez. We have multi-talented artist Mars Wright, and last but certainly not least, community leader, model, and entertainer, the sensual ViVi Spears. Thank you all so much for being here. I'd love to invite each of you to briefly introduce yourselves, share a bit about who you are and the work you do, so our audience can get to know you better before we dive in.
Hi,
Anyone?
everyone. My name is Carolina Gutiérrez. I am originally from Barranquilla, Colombia. I am an actress, I'm a TV host, an activist, and I'm a proud Latina transgender woman. I also wanted to just quickly say thank you to Vanessa for having me here today and to Trans Lifeline for doing amazing work for the community. I'm very excited to be here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mars. My pronouns are he and him. I'm a multidisciplinary artist living in Los Angeles. I make clothes and things, and yeah, I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you thank you, Vanessa, and thank you to the Trans Lifeline. I genuinely would not be here without them early on in my transition. So really grateful for the space that y'all create.
Hi everybody. I'm ViVi. I go by ViVi Spears online. I'm kind of all over the place in the things that I do. I used to be a resource navigator until the big chop, but then because of like the country and all that, so I've kind of taken like my resource navigation and community like centered like mindset to just doing it kind of like just in my day to day, kind of like just through the actions and all the things that I do. But besides that, I also do like I do some modeling. I've done some things with content creation via social media and stuff like that. So it's all over the place. It's kind of like it's hard for me to describe exactly what it is right now in this moment. But yeah, that's and I'm thankful that y'all asked me to be here.
Well, thank you all for sharing and thank you so much for the love and the support. I'm just extremely excited and honored to have y'all here. So thank you for being here and sharing more about yourselves. Since today's session is about visibility and navigating life in today's world, I'm going to give you a quick and easy question for y'all first. And y'all can answer whatever popcorn method. But the first question for me to y'all is, what does visibility mean to you? Why is that important? And how has that perspective evolved for you throughout your transition?
I guess I can start by saying I think visibility starts with self-acceptance. I don't think you can be visible if you can't accept who you are and be proud of it, because that is the root of where your visibility is going to come from and how it will perform to others. You know, we are our biggest allies, we are our biggest advocates. So the moment I was able to self accept that I am a trans woman, and not only I accept it, but I'm proud of it, that's where my journey began, as a very visible, very out and proud transgender Latina woman living in the United States, who also decided to follow her dreams and aspirations, as an entertainer, as an actor, an advocate, a TV host, and that kind of visibility definitely helped me amplify my message, but also it really pulled the veil that was in front of me and made me realize that the world is a very dark and cruel place at times, and that we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. And we have to be very strong and very on the forefront about it. I'm not afraid. I've been afraid. Now I'm just more anxious about wanting to continue to speak up and be a voice for the voiceless and make sure that everyone in our community knows that we are not alone and that we're doing this as a team. It's a team effort.
I love that. I'll jump in. I posted a little piece of art about trans day visibility that I made a couple of years ago. I think when I first transitioned, visibility meant so much to me. It was like, I will say, kind of golden years trans. Everything was all trans. We were all getting brand deals. Everything was amazing. And I was like, yay, if people just knew about me, if they just knew that a trans man existed, then maybe they'd treat me with respect and dignity. And I'll just tell them about me. And of course, people will be nice and kind. And unfortunately, just to be so candid, as time has progressed, my idea of visibility has shifted a lot because I feel like at this point, there's so much knowledge about what it means to be a trans person, a lot of misinformation, but what is there to back underneath that? So when I think about visibility, I think it's a much more nuanced conversation that I'm having now of, yeah, I want to be visible, but I want to be visible with tangible safety and actions. And I want to be cognizant of visibility actually being harmful to our community when it's done without that kind of care and concern for our identities. It's just used like, oh, I know all this stuff about a trans person doesn't mean I'm going to be very nice, doesn't mean I'm going to advocate for them. So that is what I think trans day visibility really means for me now is visibility to the next step. What are we doing on top of being just visible?
I will say that visibility to me kind of just boils down to like representation of us in just various forms of life. And I kind of understand that golden era of like the transness that you were talking about, seeing like Laverne Cox on the Time magazine, seeing like trans faces in shows like Orange is the New Black at the time, and just seeing a climb into that and seeing like so many laws being passed that were that were like helping us and like giving us like care and respect and dignity, and kind of like with the situation with how we went from like a black president into a very racist time, we went to a very positive time to like a shift to where like now being visible just means that like you could just lose a lot more right now instead of gaining like you could have. Um, So for me, I've learned that like I used to have like this mindset that like all trans people should be like proud and out and all this. And I guess as time goes on, I've started to fully understand what like self, like being self in the community and all that, how that can be very safe because you get to live your life, you get to create a support inner circle of people that know who you are. And then you kind of like protect yourself in that way. So like I've learned that as time goes on, like visibility is really each trans person's individual choice on how visible that you want to be seen. And I just know that I've changed my mindset on people who feel the need to like not be as out and loud. I think that's just as respectable as a trans person who goes out and like screams out to the world their transness and about our community. I just think that we got to find what is safe for us individually. But that's how I view that.
I love everyone's responses. I think some of us here, if not all of us, like grew up definitely in an era where everything was Disney, like access to hormones, resources, community was such like, as Mars you said, like golden era. Like it was just a great time to be out and about, meeting other trans folks. And we now are shifting where, like Vivi, you mentioned, it is a safety concern. Like some folks are choosing to just exist without adding the trans component to their lives because it's a safety and it's just their situation. Others, visibility is thrust upon us. Like we don't have a choice but to be visible because we're visibly trans. And so then we have to endure whatever comes that way for us. Um, I choose to be visible because I've gone from like living stealth, being depressed, unhappy, and not making authentic relationships with people. That includes both like romantic and platonic relationships. And now, like through community and through like my sisterhood of other trans girls, I live very out and proud. And meeting other people like you, Vivi, like has been something that has impacted my life in such a positive way. So I'm just happy that you're here and we're all here. Um, that shifts my question that I have for y'all. In community, specifically now, because we are living in a world where trans folks are being attacked on the daily at this point. Um, our identities are also being attacked, and how valid we are is being attacked. Um, in community and also people outside of our community having conversations around like what it means to be like valid as a trans person, where sometimes people are policing each other's like identities or like experiences. I'm curious, what are y'all's thoughts on like on that, but also what would you tell someone who may not fit quote unquote like the trans experience or the trans narrative because they're either early on questioning or they're just exploring their own individual like trans identities?
Well, I would like to start by saying that, as I mentioned before, self-acceptance is the biggest hurdle. And I don't think anyone should feel entitled to police who gets to say that they're trans, who gets to use what pronouns, who gets to perform femininity or masculinity, that it should be up to the person. I don't understand why we've kind of fallen into this trap of policing gender expression. One of the things that even cisgender people should feel entitled and allowed to explore as they wish. Unfortunately, we do live in a very binary world that likes to set certain standards and rules in order to control people. So if you're able to point at someone and immediately know, oh, this person's a woman or a man, because that's just how basic some people can be when it comes to gender and sex and identity, then they feel like it's easier for them to navigate those people and their own experience in the world. And I think that that's a very antiquated way of seeing the world. We've realized that gender expression is very expensive, that we should be able to explore every avenue and say, I want to be able to wear heels today, or I want to be able to grow my beard. I want to be able to do this and that. And who are we to tell those people no? You know what I mean? And I get that there are spaces that have been dedicated to specific groups of people, such as locker rooms, bathrooms, and such. And to that, I say, I think, and obviously this is me being wishful, that we should be allowing whoever feels comfortable in those spaces to enter those spaces and not try to cater to the bully. Why are we telling other folks in the community, hey, you can't go in there until you pass. Hey, you shouldn't be wearing this. Because then they're going to get confused and then we're going to be hurting and we're going to have to hear from them. I'm like, why are you attacking each other when we should be pointing the finger at the bully? Why are we appeasing the bully and making the problem? It's like when you victim blame women for being harassed. Oh, well, you shouldn't be wearing that. Oh, well, you shouldn't be out at night by yourself. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had free will and I could do whatever I want when it comes to my, navigating the world. And yet we're still doing the same thing when it comes to trans people. We're policing, we're attacking, we're pushing people away when we really should be focusing on the bad guy, the bully, teaching them how to be respectful, teaching them how to have compassion, and for them to educate themselves. Because the world is not black and white, and they should know that by now. Willful ignorance is, I think, a drug for a lot of people, and I think their way of just so easily being able to point the finger at others and then us kind of doing the same thing really has become, I think, the main issue, and we just need to let people be.
Yeah. Oh, everything you said is so amazing. Since I am the only transmasculine person on the panel, I will talk to the transmasculine folks that might be here. I think a lot of times in our community, there's a big narrative around having to hate all of the parts of you pre-transition, hate parts of you that are feminine, hate things that you might have loved about your life pre-transition. And I just want to talk to you and tell you that you're not any less masculine. If you identify as a man, you're not any less of a man. I was just talking about it the other day. Like, my life pre-transition, was I happy in that body? No. Did I want to wake up every day? No. But I was going to make the best of it. I was going to try and have fun. I was going to wear my cute little dresses, and I learned as much as I could. And it reminds me kind of like when Shaggy and Scooby-Doo becomes Velma for a day, and he's like, whoa. It's like I had that opportunity for 20 years and I made the most of it. And a lot of those experiences are the reason that I am the man that I am today. So if you are transmasculine and you feel like you're not masculine enough or you're not manly enough because you didn't always, the minute I got out of the womb, I was shaved all my hair off and always wearing masculine clothing and always knew. That's not true. And it's okay to embrace your femininity if that's how you feel. And it's actually a real honorable moment because we do need a change in masculinity. And I think that's where trans masculine people can really lead by example, by sharing our experiences and being new kinds of men. So to every trans masculine person out there, you are valid. And all trans people there in general.
Um, that both of y'all make really great points. I think my mindset around this is pretty simple. I think that trans people have the right to live their lives exactly like anybody else. I see cis people, we've also seen cis people. Cis people come in all shapes, sizes, colors, looks. I've seen some that look like supermodels. I've seen some people who look like toes, like a big toe. Like the thing is, if cis people are allowed to look like a big toe in public, you're allowed to look like a big toe, especially in the beginning of your transition. Like who cares? Like, and then I've met plenty of girls, guys, like some that don't want to get bottom surgery, some that have deeper voices that don't want to get vocal surgery. There's some people that do not want to come up here and do a high pitched anime girl voice for you guys. Like I'm one of them. Like for me, like I realized in my transition that like I started feeling the most happiest was when I stopped performing in general. Like y'all see what y'all see, and that's what I like the blonde hair. Like the pink, stuff like that. Those are things I enjoyed. If I woke up tomorrow and I didn't like blonde hair and I liked red hair, I would be a red hair diva. So I'm just like, nothing is like solidified. And then on top of that, everyone's journey is different. Everyone has their own wants. And I think like that is what kind of like confuses a lot of people is because like if people feel like they have to be in a like this weird rigid binary, they feel like they have to do certain things. And then they look at us who just reject all of that and we live our lives doing whatever we want from like there's some girls out there that love the idea of staying in the pre-surgery like just letting the hormones do it and like just letting it be natural. There's some of us that want to get 800 cc's up in here and get the whole shebang. I'm like, at the end of the day, it's all trans, it's all respected, it's all our lives. And so for me, like I just personally don't care what the next trans person is doing. And then like the comment earlier, where Carolina said that people will like nitpick about things. I don't know, like you getting A cup boobs whenever they try to recommend that you should go the biggest because you're a doll, whatever. That has no effect on me. I got the 800 cc's and I'm happy. So if you want the 100 cc's, good for you. I don't got to pay for it. I don't got to do nothing. I like it's not my experience. So like I just cannot be bothered. And I think that that's what trans people need to realize is that like at the end of the day, and this is why like for instance like white people are able to have so much power is that at the end of the day, even their most flawed people that they do not like, they will connect with whenever it meets a bigger goal. And once that bigger goal is met, then they'll handle the people that they don't like within their own community. So my thing is, it's like right now is kind of one of those situations where it's like, I really don't care what you look like or what you're doing. You like your actions do not like cover mine and my actions do not cover any of these people in this room right now. Like whatever I'm doing is not the way that you have to live your trans life. You can live it exactly how you want. And that's kind of like my idea on all of this.
I live for everyone's perspective. I think the message that I always tell folks is like the trans experience is such a beautiful experience when you arrive to this moment in time where you're able to, like Marcy mentioned, like you can look back and like, yeah, I didn't want to wake up, I didn't want to live, but I made the best of my situation. For me, like my boyhood, because I transitioned when I was 14, my boyhood allowed me to strut to my womanhood, right? Like that little boy survived, did what he needed to do so that I could arrive where I'm at today. And I don't have shame for that version of myself. That version of myself is like such a gift that I was able to experience and that people were able to experience with me. And I think as trans folks, it's important that we learn to love all of our versions in our transition, right? I feel like a lot of trans folks, when we arrive, right, to like a certain status symbol in our transition, whether we pass or we have all these surge, um, we forget that we were once bricky, clucky queens walking the streets. We forget that we struggled going into the girls' restroom or the boys' restroom or that we had insecurities. Like, we forget that that was part of our experience. And so when I see trans folks like battle baby trans people or other trans folks, like you said, ViVi, that like may not want to get the surgeries, may not want to, get like the bigger CCs, like there's no reason why when we've all walked that same path in a different way, right? But like we've all experienced the nuances of like baby trans to middle trans to we've arrived. Um, and I think folks hear the message here is like allow yourself to experience your transition and allow yourself to choose how you live your life as a trans person, whether it's out, whether it's proud, whether it's just existing, like embrace all those parts of you because it's such a beautiful experience. Um, which brings me into my next question is, what ways can trans folks safely take up more space, including like cis-dominated environments, that might help shift like conversations or create change? And I ask this question from a place of Um, I am tired of hearing the world tell me that we don't deserve to exist and that we don't deserve to experience a life or love or success or to be in spaces. And so when I exist, I take up all the space and I go in every space that I want to. Um, that's where that question is coming from. So I'm curious to know what are your thoughts on how can trans folks safely take up more space, including cis-dominated areas?
Um, I think for me, being able to not only be out as a trans woman in my personal life, professional life, romantic life, I think I've been able to make small changes within those circles and try to pull in as many allies as I can. We all want to be able to be independent and do the work on our own because we know better than anyone else what it feels to be trans. We know the struggles, at least from our own point of view. And sometimes we have to put that ego aside and remember that sometimes the world's a little more difficult as a minority, as a person who is currently being attacked by our own government, by our communities, by society in general. So the more people you can pull into your circles, the more people you can touch with your life, I think the better. It's kind of like we're building our own little army of allyship. And I love that. I can see the change happening right in front of my eyes. And every time I come out to someone new that I've been friends for weeks, months, sometimes years, I've known people that didn't know because I never got a chance to out myself to them, I guess, or we just didn't go that deep. And then all of a sudden I tell them and their mind is blown, but also I can see that for some, not for all, they are very excited to learn more, but also I can tell that they're learning and they're wanting to support in any way they can. And if that means showing up or simply speaking up for you and our community, I think that it's a great start. It can be very overwhelming when, like I said, the whole world is coming at you and you feel like you're just one person being swallowed by all this bullying and all this hatred. And again, I think thinking small first and then going bigger might be easier than thinking that you have to take on the world by yourself and scream and get angry. And I mean, I do all of those things too, believe me, I've had my moments, but then I have to kind of reel back and remember that, we have to choose our battles. But in the meantime, I will continue to bring in all those allies and all those friends and all those family members that I know have been supporting me throughout the entirety of my transition. And prior to that, I still have thankfully friends that I met when I was a kid, that were still friends and they were able to overlook me being transgender and accept me for who I am and support me for who I am. So that can be maybe a great way to go about it.
I love that so much. I love the idea of, thinking about allyship, especially as a trans man. Um, we have such a unique position, and I've seen it where, I mean, just point blank, men will listen to me in a way that they won't listen to any other woman, trans or not. And so we have this really unique opportunity to be able to talk to and integrate ourselves with cis men and hopefully make positive changes. And as much as, there's so many terrible men out there, as we all know, but there are also a lot of men that I've seen really want to change and grow. And I've been able to see, specifically by sharing my experience as a trans man, it unlocks something in them. Like I see it in their eyes. It's crazy. They're like, oh, the way that you're able to embody your whole personality, your whole masculinity and femininity, like that's something that I'd really like to do. I had this experience, I'm a dancer, and I performed at a couple of dance battles. And I had this experience, I was at this dance battle. There was this guy there that was just so cool. He was so tall, so buff, so manly. I was like, oh, if only I could be cool like that guy. And I went to do my dance battle round and I did like my little ass shake at the end, which is something I love to do. And then when his battle round came up, he decided to shake his ass. this. And then he came up to me after and he was like, I would have never done something like that if I didn't see you do it. And that is the power of being a trans man and being able to integrate ourselves in these cis male spaces. Again, with cis men that are safe. I don't encourage anybody to go any place where they're not safe or people aren't willing to listen, but it's been really powerful to see men impacted by my experience because it also reaffirms my manhood and it shows me that we're all the same and I can learn from their experiences and they can learn from mine. And hopefully, because they're friends with a trans person for the first time, they might think about things differently. And I can say things to them that they wouldn't hear from other people, unfortunately. And I think that's also part of being a trans man and gaining the privilege that we do have is we have to use that privilege for good. And like Carolina said, you can go out there and get those allies, but I don't want the labor of all of that to be on trans women anymore. Like we have privilege to be able to be seen and safe, and I want more trans men to be going and building allies in cis man spaces because we can integrate ourselves safely in those spaces in a way that a lot of folks can't. So that's what I will say about that.
Um, my thought on like us like safely like integrating and stuff like that. I kind like I think it really boils down like it's really like confusing to me because like the reason why I personally have not integrated into this spaces as a possible trans woman myself is because these people are just point blank some of the most awful people I've met. The way that y'all like, oh, I almost said y'all, the way that they have like create this narrative around each other. Like you see like straight relationships where it's a running joke where men hate their wives. I don't see that often in trans relationships or LGBT relationships. I do see problematic relationships, but like it's never a like we're gonna joke about that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, putting like these standards like men have to do this, women have to do that. I'm like, there's just the only thing that's worth integrating in the cis community, in my opinion, is the paychecks that they get. I'm like, they just get better paychecks than a lot of trans people and a lot of minorities in general, just because, like I said earlier, it's really about protecting like whatever they see as their own and then like moving forward with that. So I think that that's where us as trans people, like all sorts of us, like all types of us, integrate into society in really great places. Like I've seen a lot of I've seen more masculine trans women and stuff in like more labor intensive fields, and it doesn't give man, it gives the tomboy fantasy. It gives the like there's masculine women out there, and then for like passable like trans people, like the impact that I see them where you can integrate into a job, a community, a life no one really knows. And then whenever you start telling them, their mind is blown, and now they're like willing to be like, like I didn't realize it was like this non-evil thing. I'm like, the narrative has really been catered that like trans people are like would make bad parents, but I'm like, if gays and trans can't have kids, then all the reports are saying that abuse is coming. But like, where is it coming from? It's not coming from us because y'all don't allow us to like have those experiences. So that's how I kind of see it, is that like when we integrate into these things, like I think it's really important to show our like community and our community values to these people too, because like I don't like to I don't have any interest in joining that realm safely or unsafely until like they kind of get their ish together. I'm like, it just seems like a lot of bickering. It sounds like a lot of misogyny, a lot of racism, a lot of problematic stuff. And like, for instance, like I have a lot of friends who are in the sex work industry, and a lot of my cis friends who are in that industry complain about a lot of the backstabbing and a lot of the negativity that they get from each other. And then I talk to trans sex workers and stuff like that, and the connection and the willingness and wantingness to want to connect and be a community because you realize that it's not a competition. Like we all have, like they all have the same client base, they all have all this, but like it's not a competition. It's about like working together to create protection for y'all. Like, so us as trans people integrating, I think it's always great to like show ourselves to people that are safe, and like letting this like safe cis people do the heavy lifting. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not here. I wasn't born to be in an encyclopedia or to convince anybody of my transness, but I have like made people realize how beautiful trans people are through like my experience and friendship. And then they go off and they like talk to like their friends, they advocate, they do stuff, because like it's very exhausting as a trans person to stand in front of a group of people that are not like you, who have no experiences like you, and don't even care to think past and do the critical thinking that it would take to kind of understand other people. That's my take on that.
Nylav, I personally am an advocate for being in trans and queer spaces. They're the most fun spaces to be in. I love being around communities. Cis people to me are not as colorful or as vibrant as we are. And so the only place I tolerate them is at raves. And outside of that, I stick to my people because we're just badasses. I mean, we're cool kids. Pardon my French. Um, okay, I have one more question for y'all. Um, well, I have a few more questions, but this one I think it's important to discuss. In community, there's often been times, been feelings amongst like trans women and trans men, um, where the visibility is mostly for trans women, and a lot of trans men may feel not seen. And so I'm curious, how can we move away from comparison and instead choose on building and expanding spaces that support all of us when it comes to visibility?
And before I answer that question, I just wanted to second what ViVi was saying, because I think that she made amazing points. And one of those, I think, in my own words, would be to work towards dismantling the patriarchy, because a lot of cisgender people are really, truly just 100% brainwashed into following what the patriarchal systems tell them, and that goes with, gender norms, expectations of men and women, cisgender men and women in society. And I think as trans people, like I mentioned earlier, this veil, it's kind of pulled from in front of us, and we're able to see the world in a way that I think a lot of cisgender people will never have the opportunity to do so. And that allows us to choose for ourselves, not to let this system, this patriarchal system that puts women down, that puts minorities down, that put people of color down. And instead, we can choose to be better than that. And I'm all about breaking down that system, dismantling it altogether, burn it to the ground. I'm a feminist through and through. And I hope that everyone in the community and all of the allies around me understand that I will never bow down to the patriarchy moving forward. And if I choose to look a certain way or participate in certain spaces, it's because I want to, not because I feel like I need to. And I will continue to work on that. I know there are many things about myself that I need to separate myself from these expectations of societal, norms and whatnot. But I just think it's what you said, ViVi, really resonated with me, because that's kind of been something that I've been working on. And I'm just seeing how proud and fucking how fierce you are about your choices and your life really inspires me and motivates me. And same thing with you, Vanessa, because I know that you've been just such an amazing icon in the community. And, you again have motivated me and inspired me to be more like that. So, and now quickly going back to the original question, I think, again, I think trans men definitely have taken a backseat when it comes to trans conversations. And I don't think it's because they want to, it's because I think society allows them to. it's a more comfortable space. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mars, but I believe that when you enter society once again, but now in a, in an identity that it's seen as superior than women and femininity, they don't want to bother. They don't care. They feel like you're just kind of falling in line. And I guess owning your manhood is seen as more acceptable than denying it, which what happens to trans women. How dare you deny being a man if that is the most awesome thing in the world? And they don't understand that we've never been men, and that we don't aspire nor do we want to fall into that category or pyramid scheme of hierarchy that has been built for us. So I think, if anything, I just hope and pray that trans men continue to feel more empowered in their own identity, and that we can all just work together. It shouldn't be about like trans men here, trans women here. And no, I think it's great when I see T for T relation. I've dated several trans men, and I'm very happy to say that they were some of the most beautiful relationships that I've ever had. I'm very happy to say that some of the most amazing men that I've ever met in my entire life have been trans men. And I just hope that they continue to feel empowered to speak up for all of us, and to know that they do have a lot of power in their hands and that they can use it to their advantage.
Yeah, everything. And also, again, what you were saying, Vivi, earlier, I really resonated with as well. And the way that you ended that is like everything I was going to say. We do have so much power and we need to use it to advocate. I've been very interested in trans men's role in the past and where were we? And oftentimes you don't see us in a lot of places. So I've asked elders in Los Angeles, and they've told me point blank that they would have conventions or trans meetups or whatever, and a bunch of trans men would come to the meetup, and then they just disappear and they never saw them again. And I don't necessarily know why that happened or what was going on, but I don't think that we have time for that right now. I think that we need everybody. Like you said, we're a community, this is a group effort, and there's so much. I mean, if you really get to the core of it, so much of what is happening right now is at the hands of cis white men that are completely in line with the patriarchy. And a lot of that, if we want to go so far back, has been purposely built by the manosphere, which is like this really intentional way of targeting young men and boys to reappropriate patriarchy. And so trans men have this really unique opportunity to showcase a new masculinity. And I've seen, back to the original question, actually, ADHD, when that conversation of, oh, there's so much visibility for the dolls, and I've heard it in trans men spaces, they'll be like, we don't get anything, da 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 da. And I just ask them, I wonder how much of that is worth our time, first of all. And second of all, how much of our time could be spent in creating spaces for ourselves? Why are we all fighting over this one breadcrumb when the real tea is the person who's deciding that we only get one breadcrumb is a cis white man with all the money? And as a white man, and I'm Desi, but I basically live in the world as white. Because I have that, I can go maybe talk to that dude and he might listen to me. And then maybe we could make it so that there could be 20 breadcrumbs. And so we wouldn't have to fight over the one breadcrumb. I could use my opportunity to be talked and listened to. And I've seen that those men will listen to me and they won't listen to other people. It's just the way that it is. And it sucks, but that's the tea. So I hope that trans men can show up more, can advocate more, can use our power more. And again, this is coming from my own experience. So if you're not safe, all those kinds of things, obviously. But yeah, I just really want trans men to show up more. I want to see more trans men doing more stuff. And I want to see us creating more spaces for ourselves and putting our energy towards creating those spaces as opposed to infighting or talking about, they have this and we don't have the da 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 nonsense. Bunch of nonsense in my book.
Um, so I heard about how like trans women, like trans men are in the backseat, trans women are like that. I'm gonna be honest, as a trans woman, I wish I was in the backseat. I wish we weren't getting talked about as much because realistically, the safety that I've seen that like, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but while a lot of like trans men and masculine people get ignored, And a lot of that, like being ignored, falls into the society still looking and considering y'all women, even if y'all are masculinized women. I like the reason why I feel like there is some safety in that is because the patriarchy is the biggest thing that is hurting a majority of people in this world. And if you think about it, the patriarchy is about building men up that will uphold it while destroying women down who oppose it on top of the women who still uphold it. Like the women that uphold it, like all the women that we've seen like go up in the recent times and taking power in this country, almost all of them are rejecting it now. And that is solely because like you realize at some point that everything that you thought that like playing along in the system is going to get you anything. And so like I sit here and I'm just looking at like the reason why I feel like trans women are the front of this of everything is because going from man to woman is a like it's a to go from being seen as someone who has power in this world who can be listened to, because before I transitioned, like while I was still like not like a man or whatever, I still like people listened a lot more, stuff like that. And as I transitioned, you see how women are treated. And that whole time I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, that's the reason why trans women are the face of this whole movement in cis people's mind, is because trans women fully getting like their right to be a woman means that cis women have the power to be just like us and have the same rights, respect, and like the same shit that we're calling for. And that is what really would dismantle the whole system. And that's why whenever you go through history, I feel like trans women have always been the center, because unfortunately cis people don't look at women turning into men as much of a threat as a man turning into a woman and demanding the same respect as she had as a man. Because being a passable trans masculine person, from the friends and people I've known, like y'all are able to get positions and jobs and things that are high paying and all that, with the one caveat being that y'all just can't talk about being trans. While a trans woman still won't get the best paying job, even if she's passable, because she's now just a woman. And I feel like that is why we keep being put in the front of all this. And I'm over here just like I don't want to be the front. I kind of wish that like y'all would just look at us as a collective, because it would make more sense where your hate's coming from if you were looking at us as a collective. But the fact that they keep on putting trans women as the front of this issue lets me know that you are just scared that cis women are going to start acting like me, loud, proud, sexual. Like, I can fight. That's why I go into spaces like unbothered. Because at the end of the day, I know that I've got like a lot of weight behind my fist. And I'm like, if you really want to fight a fat woman and find out that I'm a fat trans woman, surprise, surprise, like that's on you. So that's kind of where I stand on all this. Like, it just feels like people in our community need to realize that it's not trans women wanting to censor ourselves. This whole thing that we're dealing with is cis people censoring us. The moment a government official like puts anti-trans stuff out and targets and makes all the verbiage about women, that should let you know exactly who is controlling the narrative around like all of this. And it's not us, it's not y'all. So I think that we definitely need to stop infighting and realize that we can do infighting when we all have rights. Once we all have rights, once we all have protection, then I'll listen to your stance on trans women should be hairless. But until then, and until like everyone has access to the things that like would go from being their decision to just the decision that life is giving them, because a lot of people aren't able to transition and do the stuff that they want. And if we were all able to, and then we said we didn't want to, then we can open up discussions and have that. But I'm not having these discussions whenever we're 2 shakes away from losing all of our rights. So that's why I don't entertain infighting. And that's why I'm just like, bro, like, I spend most of my time indoors as a trans woman nowadays because it's just dangerous. So yeah.
ViVi, I just want to say that you said a few things that I, until this point, did not even think of. So I appreciate what y'all have said, but I appreciate you, ViVi, for making some statements that has made me rethink my own viewpoints on visibility and why trans women are at the forefront because of visibility. We are coming up at time, so if y'all can bear with us, we're gonna keep going. We have a few more questions, and we have quite a few of Q&A from folks that are in the audience. Thank y'all. I encourage the speakers, if y'all want to answer those live or type them out, you're more than welcome to. Before we get there, I do want to ask each of you a question. Carolina mentioned this before. ViVi, you are literally someone that inspires a lot of people, including myself. You embody the idea of creating the world in the way that you want to. Your resilience, your sense of self are so powerful. Um, I'm curious, where does that strength come from, and how has your journey shaped the way that you show up for yourself and others? And then any advice that you would give someone who feels lost or uncertain about their future?
I think a lot of this comes from, it's just that like I think what it boils down to is I have a childhood friend. She's a sister girl, by the way, but she wasn't religious, and I remember she would always we got into a big argument because I was a Christian back then, and then it boiled down to like, girl, I just need more proof or whatever, and I sit there and I realized that as time went on, certain things that I thought I believed just had no truth backed into it besides maybe a book or like a religious book or something like that that did not have like actual factual like info. So as time went on and I realized that and I started learning more info, I realized that the reason why I'm so confident is because at the end of the day, like I don't hate who I am as a person. I don't hate being fat. I don't hate being trans. I don't hate that I'm half black. I don't hate that I'm half white. I don't hate none of these things about me. And so I've learned that like I think that's what keeps me going is realizing that like everything that I thought that I hated about me wasn't really actually what I thought about myself. It's what I had learned from like the world, from what like from TV, from just the bullies that like I knew growing up. And then to be like an adult and realize that none of that like means anything. That's kind of how I gained the confidence to like do whatever. Like I push after my dreams as a plus size person and as a trans person just because for me, I'm like, it doesn't matter what like anyone might think. It's about what I think. It's about what I'm experiencing, what I'm living for my individual life. And I think that's where I pull a lot of my stuff. And the advice that I would give to people in like who are transitioning and stuff and want to learn how to find that confidence. The confidence truly comes in finding the self-worth from yourself. For instance, I go out into the world, I've surpassed being cared if people call me a man or a woman. At the end of the day, I don't care what people think I am. I don't care what people think I am racially, gender-wise, whatever, have it. I live my life fabulously. And part of my language, like the kind is very severe over here. And I don't even have to do much. And I don't try because all of that beauty that I find within myself is just things that I have built between me and myself. I don't have to look at another community. I don't have to look at my friends. I don't have to look at family. I don't got to look at nobody else to find out that like the real truth of the matter is that as a human being, you have rights, you have certain protections that you should be getting and that you should love and be treated just how anybody else. So you deserve love, you deserve prosperity, you deserve a job, you deserve to be able to travel, do whatever you want, no matter who you are, especially if you're a trans person. So that's the biggest thing that like keeps me going.
Thank you, ViVi. Spoken like a true queen, a goddess. My next question is for the one and only Carolina. Your work in film and television has brought many trans stories into spaces that haven't always included us. How has your experience as a trans Latina woman shaped your career and approach to storytelling? And then what encouragement will you offer to another trans BIPOC person pursuing this path, or just pursuing any kind of path?
My career as a openly transgender Latina woman in acting, specifically speaking, has been one of wins and losses, ups and downs, as many my attest to. As an actor, you're constantly in need of validation, of acceptance, because you want to get the job, you want them to like you want them to know that you really want it, you know? And it's funny that I chose this career because as a trans person, I feel like that's what I've been doing a lot of my life, sadly enough. I've been begging, please accept me, please see me for who I am. And you know, I had to have those two roads kind of meet in the middle and realize, wow, like why am I seeking this validation just to make myself feel better? Or is it just because I want to actually do the work and actually, you know, be an actor and do this and do that? And then I realized that both things were true, you know, and that me putting myself out there as an open trans woman in acting meant that I could use my past experiences as a trans woman to build a thicker skin, to push through all the no's and all the rejection that you have to face as an actor when you're constantly asking for opportunities and auditioning and being told no, 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 one time after the other, until you finally get that one opportunity and then you really wanna, you know, do your best. And I feel like it kind of mirrors my identity as a trans woman. I've been seeking validation so much my entire life, constantly, from cis people, from my parents, from everyone around me. And I finally kind of had enough of that. And I'm so happy that both of those experiences, being an actor and being a trans woman, have helped me find peace. And now when I do an audition, I let it go. You know, one of the advice that I give to anyone pursuing this is, yes, it is going to be rough. Yes, you will sometimes have to find many other work opportunities while pursuing this. But just remember that just like as a trans person, you were able to get this far, you can do the same thing as an actor. And you just have to keep working on yourself, trust in your instincts, trust in your talent. Know, like ViVi said, that you're going to do whatever you want to do because this is your life, this is your chance. You know what I mean? And you don't get a redo, you know, you just got to keep going. And if you decide one day, you know what, I've had enough, I just want to do something different, then do it. So what? Just like as a trans woman, if one day I decide I want to chop off all my hair and just do whatever and present differently, I should be able to do so without having people invalidate my identity as a trans woman. That's my biggest advice. Kind of follow your instinct, follow your heart. I love the idea of being able to, for example, play cisgender roles as an actor. That's kind of been my biggest motivator lately because I've had the opportunity to do both. But I think that exploring the idea of portraying a cis character really opens the door to many more opportunities, and while still showcasing the fact that I am trans and I am proud of it, and that we should be able to do it all. You know, that there shouldn't be any limits to what we can do professionally and personally.
I live. I think just to add to your what you said, Carolina, before I go into Mars, is I believe that if you can become the woman, the man that you see in the mirror, there is no reason why you can't achieve any career goals, any hobbies, any passions, any loves. If you can be the trans person of your dreams and be a Barbie or a Ken, you could do anything. There's no excuses but the ones you give yourself.
Absolutely. I think trans people, just to add on to that, are some of the most ambitious, powerful, wise, and just extremely motivating and inspirational people that I know. Not to give ourselves too much, credit or flowers, but why not? Because we have done the work and we have made it through. And I think that to me is a sign and a symbol of resilience that unfortunately not a lot of people get to experience in their lifetime. We should feel very lucky as aside from all the hurdles that we have to overcome.
Thank you for adding that beautiful statement. Mars, you moved to the world as a multi-talented artist, using dance, visual art, fashion, and performance to explore masculinity, joy, and freedom. Your work also gave rise to the phrase trans joy is resistance. Can you share how that idea came to you and how embracing trans joy has shaped your identity and self-expression?
Yeah, Trans Joy is Resistance did in 2020. And if something that I think some people miss is if you look at the piece of art, it's all black and there's a bunch of smiles on it. And it was actually built from a place of extreme rage and hatred and trigger warning times when I was calling this hotline. And it was because I was so angry. I was like, what's the one thing that I can do? And it just came to me. I was like, okay, well, if they really don't want me here, if they really don't want me to exist, then I'm going to exist. I'm going to do more. Oh, am I frozen? Oh, yeah, I came back. And that's just continued on with me. And it has changed over time because it's kind of hard to say a time period like this. Like, oh, am I cutting out? Can you guys see me? Okay. Okay, cool. Um, oh, you're muted, Vanessa.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
yes, you're coming in and out.
Okay. But long story short, yeah, that was a really important piece of work, and I hope it can motivate all trans people to know that we deserve to live, we deserve to have fun. Things are really, really hard right now. My friend Eli, who's a gender doula, and was just posting about how even, if things are so hard, us sitting around and not living our lives is exactly what they want. And so I'm going to continue to live my life and have joy and have fun in spite of the people that don't want me to. And as a big, excuse my French, F you to all of them, because there's nothing that you can do that's going to tell me I'm not a man and I don't get to go dance and I don't get to eat fun food and hang out with amazing, cool, queer and trans people and live and, yeah, just have the life that they don't want me to live. Because honestly, like all y'all said, they're boring as hell. Their lives are very, very boring. And they're jealous that mine is so fun. And instead of being jealous, they could just ask how to have a funner life. But they've decided to do everything that they can otherwise because I don't understand. I'll never understand.
Thank you. Alrighty, so we have quite a few questions and we are a little bit over time. Are we good to proceed or can we answer 2 or 3 questions? Good. Thumbs up, everyone. Period. Alrighty. Thank y'all for your questions. There's a few here that may be a little similar, but um let's go. There's a few questions about visibility. One question is someone who is hiding themselves but may want to be more. Do you feel there are ways to be visible, or is it too much of a contradiction?
I have something to say about that. I would just say from my personal experience, I wasn't able, I mean, I've been out and transitioning for almost 9 years now. And there was a time in my life where I just needed to take care of myself and I just needed to figure out who I was and focus my energy on myself and being, visible or, advocating for the trans community, even educating cis people, all of those things were just not accessible to me. And I think that you should hold yourself with a lot of care, especially if you're early on in your transition or wherever you are in your transition. You know that you're the most important person first, and that all should come from filling my cup. Thank God, I'm so grateful that I'm in the place that I'm in right now. My cup is so overflowing with confidence and joy for myself that I have some to offer to people. But if I didn't have that first, I couldn't do this and it would be damaging to myself. And so if you're in that place, make sure you take care of yourself. That's what I'd say.
I definitely would like to just add very quickly to this that it says, what ways are there to be visible, or is that too much of a contradiction with hiding yourself? If you really want to like showcase like your art, culture, like your story, your life, or whatever, you're able to take on an alias and create art and create your story and create a vision or a business under that. Like you don't have to fully be out to like yeah, we don't like her because she turned into an awful person, but the magical wizard book writer sat there and did that, so she had a better chance to be seen instead of just being seen as a woman. So if you feel the need that you want to express your transness more, do it through your art, do it through your work, do it through whatever, and you don't always have to put a face on it yet. You can put your face on it whenever you're comfortable.
Yeah. I think what I'll add to that, and then we'll move. There's no right or wrong way of being visible. Existing is enough visibility. You know, if you want to wear the trans pride flag and say I'm trans, great for you. If you don't, great for you. Like, it's however you want to just exist. You know, I think existing is enough visibility. And as you said, like, there are many ways that you can be visible without having to like show your face if that's a concern. Um, let's see, next question. There's a few. Ah, thank you all very much for sharing. I was wondering, how do you understand the relationship between passing and being visible? Love from a non-binary trans femme in Germany.
Mm, Well, let me answer that by saying that I think passing as we know it, I think is changing every day. You can pass and not be visible. You can not pass and be visible, and vice versa. I mean, there's so many combinations to that. And I think the most important thing is, what do you want? And yes, possibility in the eyes of others might be different from what you see in the mirror, right? You might look at yourself and say, damn, I look good today. And I feel like I could walk into any room and nobody's going to question my identity. Nobody's going to bother me, da da da. And then you show up and then something happens, right? So it's kind of not on our control, and to live your life based on whether or not you can pass or not can be very exhausting, I'm sure, for many people. And I think if anything, I would just focus more on what makes you happy, more than passing, more than being visible or not visible. What makes you comfortable? Where is your comfort level? That should be priority number one. Everything else should follow. And yes, we do live in a world again where certain spaces are being policed by gender expression, gender expectations of how we're supposed to look like, sound like, behave like. But all of that should really depend on how you see yourself, you know? And again, we sometimes feel this constant need to be validated, and we stretch ourselves so much in order to appease people around us. And I think I personally, I'm kind of sick of it. You know, I do what I want when I want to, as long as it's legal, right? And yes, when it comes to legalities of, for example, using a certain bathroom, that's where things get a little tricky. And we do kind of have to play, you know, the game sometimes in order to stay safe. But I would say, in general, do what makes you happy. Follow your heart, follow your instinct. I, for a while, stopped working out because I was afraid that my body will continue to get more muscular and quote unquote become more masculine looking. And I kind of decided I don't give a F anymore. I want to just do what I like. And I like working out. I like lifting weights. I like feeling and being strong. And if that means having bigger biceps, having bigger muscles, so be it. And that's okay. And I've accepted that. And I love that about myself now.
I just want to add, for me, uh, on this question, passability is about blending in, visibility is about standing out. And why I say that is, as like, I only say this because like people have put the passing title on me because I'm gonna be honest, throughout my whole transition, I have not once cared about passing. I just don't. I'm lazy. This, like what you see, like I just like looking like in a Nicole Smith sometimes. Like I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I just look like looking like a blonde bombshell. And so that's how I live my life. Like, but like to be visible as a trans person, you are going to have to stand out. And that does include like the dangers of like being targeted and stuff. Because, for instance, we get like, I've seen people get mad at only passable trans women getting platforms. And then I've heard passable trans women getting mad that only like breaky or clocky trans people gain the narrative, only gain the platform. And then all I've realized is that we're all visible. They all think that we're men. I don't know why y'all are talking to each other crazy. Um, like, move on. Like the real battle is, and like if you want to be visible, stand up, stand out. And if you want to be passable and you want to do that, then focus on your aesthetic, the look that you want, and things like that, and making the connections to do that. But also remember that blending in doesn't mean that you don't have to do anything. You can blend in and be a passable like trans person, gain a significant role in a company or something, and then diversify it. And no one's going to sit there and clock you or say anything about it because they just think that you're an overly nice cis person or whatever that wants everyone to be happy. So I'm like, there are ways to impact in less visible ways that are just as impactful as being visible. So that's how I see it.
Thank you both for sharing that. Mars, there's two questions here that kind of tie in with the trans mass experience. Um, so I want to give those questions to you. Um, One, the first question is, I'm going to group them together because they're both kind of long. But one is being asked about advice for a gender fluid person feeling comfortable in their skin. They're non-binary, trans mass, and usually present in mask androgynous clothing, but they would like to, they wish they knew and they would like to feel safe wearing feminine coded stuff more often in their feminine moments. And the other question, um, is from a trans mass experience where they feel that it's only a performative privilege to fit into a cis hetero expectation. Often they feel uncomfortable passing as male, but then get clocked when they speak. And so it's a very like nuanced experience. Any advice to share for them would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, I'll try to remember all of it.
Yeah.
I would say, for the second person, I just want to hold space for that experience, that is very difficult. And I remember earlier on in my transition, I was in a similar boat. Um, and yeah, I've kind of forgot exactly what the question is there. Um,
That
uh,
one is more, the second one is about that they just how do they I'll read you the entire question because it's only the one.
I
As
can,
far
I
as
can
I'll
read
read
it.
it.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, so you don't have to read it all out. Let me just read, give me a second. Um,
It's the 1.20 55.
mhm. Only see me as a failed woman. If I pass, it feels uncomfortable. Also because women see men as threats, which is understandable. Yeah, I don't have any exact advice directly, but what I do hear is just the difficulty in being a trans masculine person. I think our experience is very strange because we do end up passing really quickly and we don't have a lot of resources or tools. There's no representation. Like you said, women see men as threats. I was hurt by men as a woman. Like it's very, very intimidating to be seen in the world as a woman or however you lived, and then all of a sudden you're passing as a man and you're getting access to this privilege, and it's really complicated. And I know for me, at least, I did carry a lot of shame about being a man because I think there's so much narratives around that men are inherently toxic, and I had been hurt by men, like I had said. And it just took me some time to be more comfortable with myself. And this is something that I don't know that it would work with everybody. It depends on how you feel, Vanessa, like you were talking about your past self. But really, what I did is I just spend a lot of time with who I used to be. I take her on dates. I tell her that she's lovely. I remind her that she's valid. I have become, the dream man that she wanted to be or be with. And being able to integrate all parts of myself, I think has really helped me become comfortable as a transmasculine person. I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but I just know, yeah, it is an interesting place to be transmasculine, running all of a sudden into manhood, which is like, what I don't, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't have any tools. I didn't even know what kind of socks to buy. I didn't even know what boxers looked like. And all of a sudden I'm seen as like an adult man. Like it's just real wild. So and then let me read the first question, right? That was just the second one.
Yeah, it was they're from Alexis Jack, AJ.
hmm Um, gender fluid folks in real life, and I wish I felt safer to wear feminine coded stuff more during femme moments. Yeah, I have found that it's taken me a long time, but now I do feel comfortable to wear things that are more feminine. I shop in the girls section a lot of times because the pants fit me better. And honestly, a lot of that was safety. I was not really willing to do those things until I was fully passing, and now I'm passing, and so I I do have privilege and safety, and nobody's gonna really say anything to me if I dress a little bit more femininely. But I wasn't comfortable to do that before. And I think all experiences are valid. And obviously, caring about your safety is something that we have to think about. And it might affect, for me at least, it did affect how much I was able to be my true authentic self because I wanted to be more safe. And that's unfortunate that we have to go through that. And I'm sorry that that's something that maybe you're struggling with.
Sorry. I think something to add to that is, and my mind just shut down. Never mind, the mind just shut down. I'm gonna have one more question because we are a bit over time, before we close this out. Um, I think this is a really great question to ask for all of us is, do you think that visibility can look different depending on where you live? As I don't live in the US, I worry for my trans sisters, so I wonder if being more visible where I do live could help. Um, yeah, anyone want to share their thoughts?
Absolutely. I'm an immigrant myself. I grew up in Colombia. From personal experience, I think visibility in every country it's different. Laws are different. The danger of being out as a trans person is different. In some, as we know, countries, it is illegal to be part of the LGBT community. So if you feel like you can be safe and be visible in your space, in your community, in your own country, then I would say absolutely go for it. It can start online. It can then go into a more grassroots, method of, showing up, donating if you have the money and resources. There are incredible nonprofits and all types of organizations that are currently doing the work, such as Trans Lifeline. Shout out to the Trans Latina Coalition here in Los Angeles, APAIT, Trevor's project, and many more that are really doing amazing work. So if you can even donate your time as an ally or as a trans person yourself, it doesn't have to mean that you have to, give a ton of money. It can mean that you can show up on a Saturday when you're free and help out at an event, do some community service. I've personally sometimes have struggled financially many times, being an actor, it's not easy, but I do love the fact that I can still show up and donate my time and my mentorship to my own community while still doing the work outside of it, advocating for trans rights to cisgender people and het people. So there's many ways that you can diversify how you support us and support the community as a whole. It doesn't matter what country you're in, but of course, safety first. Because if you are not safe, then you will not be able to help anyone around you. So I think that should be priority number one.
I'll just quickly add that like everything that you said, um, I just think that with visibility, I think of course it's going to be important. Like people like to always say like comments like, "Oh, this wasn't a thing back in my day. Oh, this wasn't a thing back in this time." Blah blah blah. But the great thing about it is with experience, like through my experience growing up, like it's so interesting, like how I've heard about trans people who've been alive, and like the 50s, I've heard of trans people being alive in like Egyptian times. I've heard of trans people in like all sorts of like culture in like India and all that. And honestly, it's all important because it just shows you how powerful and how sacred like other cultures and how people really do see trans people because like they're literally like for instance, India has mentioned that they're going to be banning like transgender, non-binary stuff like that, but there's literally a few things that within it, like communities that they cannot ban it within, solely because like it's seen so highly within it. So I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, that's why representation is so important everywhere. But again, like Carolina said, it is all about like what you're comfortable with putting yourself out there because every country has their own laws and has their own way of handling people that they consider undesirables and stuff. So do what you feel is safe, but it is also very important to show that like there's trans people in Germany, the UK, like different parts of Asia, Australia, like South America, like heck, if we find out that there's like a community of trans people in Antarctica, that's great. I would love to see what they are doing in the cold with their hormone therapy and stuff. So I'm just like, that's kind of how I see it. I'm like, it is important, but also safety is more important.
This is a real quick, just a little bit of a tangent off of the amazing things that Vivi was saying. Yeah, in India, they're called hijras. And when I came out to my Indian relatives, they totally like I didn't really even have to explain anything about being trans then. Obviously, I'm very lucky, but they just understood because they had the cultural context and because we have so many deities that have kind of I don't know if anybody would say trans explicitly, but we have feelings of transness. And then when I came out to my white side of my family, I don't talk to a handful of them because they didn't quite understand it. So yeah, I just love that you're bringing to light that so many other cultures we've been around for so long, we've been revered, and it was colonization that told everybody that we shouldn't be revered. Um, and yeah, so we've been here a long damn time. Don't forget about it.
Yes, I echo that too. Like, if you ever get a chance to speak to your trans elders in your community, they will tell you stories of the 50s and 60s of what they've endured. And I think it's unsafe for trans people to exist in any time period, some less than others, but we've been here, we're going to continue to be here. And, safety is important. So, like, feel empowered to live your life the way that you're able to and also safely. Um, Thank you all for joining us today and for holding space in this conversation. Before we close, we encourage you to explore our resource library for supportive resources across the US. And as a reminder, our hotline is always available for TGI Plus community members who need support, someone to talk to, or help find resources. The number is 877-565-8860. Make sure to follow us on our social platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up to date with what's happening with community conversations. If you love the speakers we had here today, please go follow them on their socials. Mars, your social is?
At Mars period right on Instagram and TikTok and Mars right on YouTube.
Carolina, your socials are?
Mine is at the Carolina Gutierrez. So you just gotta add THE and then my full name. You'll find me on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. And yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. I'm always on my DMs. So definitely write me. If you didn't get your question in, please find me directly. I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
And Ms. Vivi, your handles are?
DBS here. Simple as that.
Period. Thank you all so much for being here and sharing space. Keep taking care of yourselves and one another. Until our next session, Everyone have a good one. Good one. Happy
Thank you,
Trans Day
Vanessa.
visibility.
You were an amazing host. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
everything.
Vanessa. You're the best.
Yeah.